Hey guys, we're back from Benasque, Spain for the 2018 Benasque Open. I'm here with International Master Eric Rosen.
Hey guys,
Most of
how's it
you
going?
probably know him already.
I'm just gonna send my whole audience to this channel. So
Nice. Yeah, so we were just in Romania doing videos from the Fisk Open on Eric's channel. If you haven't seen those, then I'll link at least the first one below, and you can definitely check it out. We just started another tournament, and it's really nice so far. The scenery is kind of amazing, right? It's like in the
this
mountains.
is probably my favorite place to play chess I've
Yeah,
ever played in. I mean, small town surrounded by mountains. Population is like 2,000.
hmm
During the chess tournament, the population is like 2,500 though.
right.
So
Yeah, it's a huge tournament, almost 500 players.
yeah.
And yeah, Benasque is like a little tourist spot for actually locals to vacation. Just really nice overall.
So
Um,
before this tournament ends, we're gonna
yeah,
try and do one video
mm,
on top of a mountain, or at least in
absolutely.
nature or
Some kind of
something, just
nature
to
vlog.
have some different
Yeah,
scenery.
for sure. Yeah, because I think people, if they see it, they'll be a lot more tempted to play in future
Exactly.
years because
Yeah.
it's really nice. But okay, we just finished round one yesterday. We were both playing way down, around 1900 players. I guess we'll start with my game here.
The miniature.
Yeah, it was fast, but very very tricky. Actually, a lot of interesting lines, and good for calculation. So if you guys feel like calculating, there'll be many points to pause the video. Well, I was playing Carlos Sanchez Resca. I think he is in his 20s, so pretty young guy. And he, I think, played the Benko recently, so I chose this move order just to
Mhm.
see what he's going to do here, because when black plays c5, which he did, d5, now they could play b5. This is definitely a very playable line, but it's not the same as the typical Benko gambit because they don't attack the c4 pawn. And so white has more options here, like bishop g5, I think is the main line. And, oh, I forgot I was going to use the mouse. I think a4 is also just a very reasonable move here as well. Um, but he decided to play e6, which is a move order that after c4 we're basically transposing into Benoni.
Were you prepared for this at all?
No, actually, in fact, before the game, I was actually just planning on going into the Benko gambit,
Mm.
and then at the board I realized, well, there's nothing wrong with knight f3. I just want to get something playable.
Sure.
And I actually had a suspicion that he might go for the Blumenfeld gambit,
Mm.
which I really wanted to play because it's well, basically refuted at this point. I mean, almost.
I feel like
Almost.
it's a type of opening if you're prepared against. It's fun to go into.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. So e6, c4. Now he could definitely just play Benoni, but I didn't see any games where he's doing this, so I
Uh-huh.
figured he wouldn't be super well versed in these lines. And okay, white has a lot of choices. But yeah, he plays b5.
So it's refuted because I thought it's still playable, but white has maybe some small edge.
Well, so what's the main line here?
Wait, I know. It's something with e4 and bishop d3, but I forget when you do it.
Right away.
E4, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a new move base. I mean, not for this game, but last couple of years, this has shown up out of nowhere. In the past, people exclusively either captured on e6 and then took on b5, like accepting the gambit,
Right.
which is playable for both sides, or they play bishop g5, which is kind of a more positional move. But black, I think, is okay here if they're theoretically prepared. E4 is just a completely new idea. I mean, developed in the last couple of years, and it's a brilliant pawn sacrifice. And I think, I mean, it's not like black is just lost here, but the positions that black gets are just so unpleasant that I wouldn't recommend it for anyone
Oh,
anymore.
it's interesting. Black tries to sack a pawn, and then you're the one sacking a pawn for compensation.
Right, it gives up this b5 pawn, but I'm like, here, take a center pawn.
Hmm.
So if he takes on c4, then white will just play like knight c3, and then
Nice
we're going to win
position.
back the pawn. Yeah, big like positional advantage. So knight e4 is kind of critical. White plays bishop d3.
Okay, I was right.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a friend who I traveled with last year. At the time, he was international master, Andre Kavan. But he got his grandmaster title at a tournament in Denmark. And he, to get the GM title, he had 2 games in the Blumenfeld.
Oh, nice.
He beat Sokolov and drew Vidyugov,
Oh,
both
wow.
with black in the Blumenfeld. And I think either one or both of the games featured this line.
Oh, so
he was just
he took black.
Yes, and he was just very resilient.
Oh wow, yeah, I think it looks very very dangerous. So if black just goes back like knight f6, this is one of the main lines. White's idea is just to play knight c3, take on c4, bishop takes c4. And for those, unfamiliar with this structure, the problem for black is this d5 square is just so weak. And whenever the bishop shows up here, the rook on a8 is in big trouble. Not to mention that white is just very quick to castle and play rook e1 in these lines. So if e takes d5 ever happens, black just gets these huge problems on the e file. So he chose queen a5 check, which I think he was out of book because he kind of started thinking here.
That's always nice.
Yeah, I have never considered this move. I didn't prepare the line before the game, but I prepared it before, and I haven't seen this. So, okay, I played the most natural move, knight d2. Now if he trades knights, I'll gain a tempo on his queen. He should go back somewhere, queen b6. I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do here. I don't really want to take. I think I'll just castle. And I think white just gets fantastic compensation
you just completed
here.
With development, and black is yet to develop.
E-file. Everything looks great.
My first instinct after queen a5 is to play king f1, but I don't know if that makes any sense. Just to keep the knight attacked and then avoid any trades.
Yeah, I think I would imagine white should be better here too. I definitely thought about it, but knight d2 just looked simple enough. Right? Yeah, but this makes sense, like g3 and then bringing the rook in. Okay, well he played knight d6, which I think is reasonable, but I feel like I'm just going to get such a big lead in development that it should be good. So here, I think the move I played was okay, but I wish I went with kind of my first instinct, knight e4. And I simply just didn't feel like calculating this all the way through. The idea is if black trades the knights, then my bishop comes to e4, and his rook has problems.
You're threatening d6.
Exactly, or takes. If he takes and then plays bishop b7, so I can consider taking on e6. I'm not sure if the sacrifice quite works. His king will maybe just sit on f8. But a move like knight e5 is just very strong here. The idea that I stop him from playing f5 because of queen h5 check. I'm threatening queen h5 in many lines, especially if he just castles. I just play queen h5 and just start sacrificing. And I think white just has a big initiative here.
It's a hard move to calculate ahead of time, like knight e5, because you have to realize kind of the venom behind the move.
Yeah, well, actually, I wasn't so sure. I wasn't so worried about bishop b7 because black doesn't have a threat. I can even play like rook e1.
That's true.
I didn't figure out what to do against f5 though. So this is a good time to pause and say white to play, find the best move. I would encourage people, if you're really serious about your chess improvement, to spend like 10 minutes here calculating, because the refutation is really nice. I won't make you
I'm
suffer,
not spend 10 minutes
if you have some intuition here, it'd be interesting.
The first moves that come to mind are d6 and d take e6.
Right.
Both lead to some sort of lines. Sometimes in positions like this, I just like to identify all the potential resources, just so I have a tool set to work with. Like bishop d2 is a resource.
Yeah.
Queen h5 potential in some positions. Even like taking on f5, d6, rook e1 could be a possibility.
Yeah, that's it. Bishop takes
okay.
f5.
Sometimes it's just a matter of like continually searching for new ideas until you come across something which feels very promising. Yeah, so this one, I don't think I really noticed it during the game, mainly because I felt like I had other options in the previous position, but it really illustrates just the power of white's attack. You just play rook e1, and it's like black is lost. King d8?
Yeah, so one line the engine pointed out is king d8. Like d6 is good, bishop g5, you can also just take.
Wow.
This one was really nice. Like check.
Black has like no defensive resources. Queen e2, right?
Exactly.
Can't defend e7.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm scared to go into these lines because I'm just sacking so much material.
Yeah, down full rook.
But I guess, I mean,
but it's
Black
mate.
can't defend.
But that's the power of this d5 pawn, is that it restricts the knight from ever coming to c6, and then the bishop is just also restricted.
Right.
So this is just a very, very nice line. I didn't feel like it was necessary to just, have to calculate all this. But knight e4 is objectively very, very strong. I went for another kind of thematic move, b4.
Wow.
Which is, in the spirit of these kinds of positions, the point is to just gain a tempo so I can get my bishop to this diagonal. If he takes with the pawn, I think it's really bad.
c5, d6.
Yeah, c5.
Nice.
I'd probably throw a knight b3 first, see where because if he puts the queen on c7, then c5, d6 is a huge problem. So I don't think this is playable. He took with the queen, kind of forced. Rook b1. He throws in queen a4. Bishop c2. I'm like, grab a third pawn, please. But queen a2, knight b3, it looks really, really sketchy for black.
It's not every day you sack 3 pawns. If he takes on c4, oh, you're just trapping the queen.
Yeah, just rook a1.
Okay.
And bishop f6, take on e6, and
Nice.
knight is hanging. So, yeah, I mean, okay, I was sure he wouldn't go for this one. So he plays queen a5. I think he played actually very reasonable, given that he didn't know the opening. Okay, here I play bishop b2. And then he actually castled relatively quickly.
Reminds me of like a Danish gambit, like just these bishops.
I mean, it looks fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But castles is, I think, the best move. Otherwise, I mean, it's hard for him to defend his position. Okay, so immediately I'm just like, double bishop sack, anyone? Like, just, I wanted this to work so bad. But okay, I'm underdeveloped here. I really need a rook ready to come to g3 or h3. So I decided to just take on b5. I'm not sure if this was the best way to put pressure on him. Maybe a move like knight e5 is better. The reason I was tempted to take here is because if he takes with the queen, okay, it's obviously bad. Knight takes b5, I get the c4 square, and I can potentially get my pawn to d6, which looks very juicy. And his knight is going to be hanging here. And I was really hoping for e takes d5, rook e1, because he just doesn't have a good way of defending this bishop.
Wow, rook e8.
Yeah, so rook e8, I assumed I would have something like bishop h7, knight g5 stuff, or rook e7 first, knight g5. I didn't really calculate it all the way through, but it looked
just visually
very,
looks
very
amazing.
tempting. Yeah.
It's like his whole
sure.
queen side is stuck because your pawn on b5. And his knight on d6 is just ridiculous.
Yeah, the development is really bad. Even a move like bishop e5 might be very difficult to meet. Yeah, I'm not exactly
You
sure.
also have like knight b3, queen take d5 as well.
As well, yeah, exactly. I think I saw this one during the game. It's like, okay, I'll find either this or something stronger. But he found the best move, bishop b7, which makes sense because he wants to take on d5 with the bishop a lot more solid, and he's getting developed. And I feel like actually at this point I had messed it up a little bit. So somewhere, maybe bishop b2 wasn't the right move. Maybe c takes b5. I should play knight e5 instead or something. But okay, now I'm forced to take on e6. I was hoping he would play fe6 because then, he opens up his rook, but after knight e5, the problem is he really needs f5 in this kind of position to shut down the bishop. Otherwise, I'm threatening bishop takes h7 check, I'm threatening queen h5, it just looks like a winning attack. But okay, he played de6. Now I play knight e5, stopping knight d7, and he plays queen c7. So here he wants to play knight d7 and develop. And I think I scared him because I play this move rook e1 with a lot of intensity. And
can you replicate the moment, like how you say you played rook e1 with intensity? Did you like?
Yeah, it's hard to explain. It's like it's almost like poker where you're just like trying to give off. You're trying to give off that you feel very strongly about the position, but without being so obvious about it that you're bluffing. Because I didn't think after rook e1 I'm actually winning. But I wanted him to think that I think that.
So semi-bluff.
Yeah, so I think if anyone wants to replicate this, the point is not to bang the move. Actually, the point is to play it as smoothly as possible. Because then it's like, oh, you're in control. The reason that this looks dangerous for black is because if he plays knight d7, now my rook is kind of ready to lift. And so the line he has to calculate is knight takes d7, queen takes d7.
Double bishop sack?
Double bishop sack.
Wow.
So bishop h7, king takes, queen h5 check, forcing the king back. Bishop takes g7,
Nice.
king takes g7.
Queen g4, rook e3.
And then queen g4, rook e3, or even rook b3 I'll have.
Rook b3.
So the line doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
Because after queen g4 check in that line, we'll show the position, but if you guys want to calculate, it can be useful. Black can play king f6. And there's just no win.
No follow-up? Rook b3 still?
Yeah, so rook
he can move the
b3,
bishop.
he'll play knight f5.
Oh, his knight's still on d6, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he covers queen h4 check, covers the f-file, everything is covered. If I give queen h4 check in that position, then he plays king g6, queen g4 check, bishop g5. So he can block. Okay, let's put it on the board.
King f6, well, I guess he can afford to do that when
Well, yeah, he's up
you
two
sack
pieces.
2 bishops. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the reason I want to do it this way is because, well, from his point of view, this is where he has to make this calculation, right? Because
Right.
he's a strong player. He's not just going to fall for the sack, right? So I didn't talk to him after the game. I'm guessing he didn't want to go for this.
I mean, it looks so scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hard move
And
to
just
find.
because you played rook e1 with so much intensity.
Right. Because, yeah, I understand he wants to play knight d7 next, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, go ahead. Objectively, probably queen h5 was a better move. I mean, this was my first instinct. The reason I didn't want to play this is it forces him to play f5, which I think is a good move in the position, and I didn't want to force him to play it. I wanted him to play it on his own. White still has good compensation for the one pawn. I can play like bishop b3, for example. And I think I'm doing reasonably well, but not like winning or anything. Anyways, rook e1, he
But
kind of went into the tank.
I like this concept, especially when playing lower-rated players, is to put them in situations where you force them to make a decision.
Yeah.
In this case, a very difficult decision.
Yeah, I think
A
so.
move like queen h5, you make the decision very easy for him.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
I was trying to do that in my game too, but had less success.
Fair enough. Yeah, and the reason f5 is for is because g6 will run into the double sack with just opening up the
taking,
bishop. Yeah, or maybe bishop g6 first is more accurate. But this looks very, very dangerous. Well, rook e1. So he thinks for a bit. He ends up playing knight takes b5. Not so much to grab the second pawn, but to play knight d4 and try to neutralize the bishop. But at this point, it's like, how many moves has he made with this knight, right? Like, and it's on b5.
He's just neglected his queenside development.
Right, exactly. Oh, for closure's sake, if he did play knight d7, then I'm not sure if I would take or not, or just play some kind of neutral move like knight c4, just kind of keeping the pressure. But I think black is going to be more or less okay. Yeah, now I felt very, very comfortable. And this is another good time for you guys to pause and try to find the strongest move. White does have a clear win here. I think actually maybe multiple. I chose one of the good moves, maybe not the best, but certainly good enough. So yeah, first instinct.
I mean, I didn't see the game. I was so caught up in my game.
Good.
The first instinct is bishop take h7, king take h7, queen h5,
Yep.
king g8. I'm just looking for a follow-up after king g8. Maybe just rook e3,
Rook e3 is like the kind of natural follow-up.
f6.
And f6 would be the only move, right? To create this escape, and then...
Yeah, because rook h3 is such a strong threat. Then
Yeah.
maybe knight g6 and...
So f6.
Is there something better?
Well, no, let's go to that position, because that is the right line.
Okay.
But white would have to find kind of the key idea in that position. Otherwise, you're kind of taking a risk, because it's nothing clear.
Right.
So if you guys really want to work on your calculation, try to visualize that position after f6 and figure out what to do. But now let's just put it on the board, because I know a lot of people aren't going to want to calculate.
I mean, okay, knight g6 is an option, but I would like something more concrete.
What if I said it was less concrete?
Less concrete? Oh, gosh. I mean, we could just leave the knight hanging, because bishop take e5 is always possible. Could play a move like... okay, I'll look for resources again. Rook g3 is a resource. Queen g6 is a resource. I'm just looking for less concrete moves. Even like knight g4 and knight h6 ideas could be interesting.
Knight g4.
Is it knight g4?
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah. So in the game, I was mainly just calculating like rook h3, trying to make this work. Take on e5, bishop e5.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't feel like there was going to be a mate here after like bishop f6. So I think he kind of covers everything.
Yeah, he's defending. Wait, is the queen hanging?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. I think bishop d6.
Okay.
Right. Bishop d6, check, I take, and then I couldn't quite...
This looks good for white, but maybe that's tricky. Can you just like win back a piece? Oh, you sacked
I'm
two
down
minors.
2 pieces, yeah. So,
yeah, it's tricky then.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, again, it's like... If I didn't have other options, I would maybe like keep calculating this more. But yeah, knight g4 is a very nice resource, and white is winning here. So the threat is knight h6 check, and then the rook comes in, or queen g6, and it's going to be mate. I think the only move is queen f4, and then after rook g3, kind of reigniting the threat. Black basically has no defense.
The king has no escape.
Yeah, so I mean, very instructive line, but not easy to see.
So at what point did you calculate knight g4?
Oh, I didn't see it in the game.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah, I just checked
Gotcha.
this at the engine after, because I felt like there should be something here. So that would have been very reasonable, but I also found a line. I just played rook e3 in this position. Oh, the engine also points out another one, knight takes f7, which I didn't even consider. The idea is just rook f7, queen h5, and there's no f5.
Wow. And g6, I assume you just take?
That's what I assumed too, yeah.
That's insane.
And mate, yeah. But I was fine with my move, rook e3. So now I'm just threatening bishop takes h7, cold. Nice. Queen h5, rook h3, and mate. And here he blunders. So f5 was just the only move. And I actually thought he would play it, because it feels absolutely forced. My plan was I calculate a nice line here. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly how to crack this position. Then finally I did find it. Bishop b3, bishop d5 would be forced. If you guys want to pause the video and calculate, you can do so. The idea is to take queen b3.
He can't defend both.
Yeah, and so this is a mate threat.
Queen b7?
Yeah, queen b7 would be the only move. And then just quiet move bishop a1, a6 is forced, and a4.
Such a nice quiet
I win a
bishop
piece.
a1.
Yeah, I was happy to find this in the game.
Nice.
I was kind of expecting we would get this, because this seems pretty much forced. And white should be winning. I'm getting a piece. He doesn't really have enough, a couple pawns, but that's it. Well, in any case, he plays knight d4. So, first instincts?
Take h7,
Just
rook
take
h3,
h7,
queen
right?
h5.
But let's calculate the line. So bishop takes h7 check, king takes, queen h5,
Sure.
king g8, rook h3. So
you have
mate in one.
Yeah.
Only move for black in that position.
So you have weird counterplay. So you have like knight e2, bishop take g2.
Exactly. Knight e2 check. If I don't take the knight, which I should, if I move the king, I could make it yellow. Whoops. So knight e2 check in that position. If I move the king, he'll have bishop takes g2. I'm forced to take. Knight comes back to f4, and
triple four.
Everything is going to be hanging in that
that's
position.
so sad.
Yeah, it's sick.
And if king f1, still bishop takes g2.
Takes g2, and he'll take the rook, and I have no mate.
Wow.
So I saw this line.
Okay.
And so I just quickly played bishop takes d4, and black is lost. So it is still winning. I could go for this. And the idea is that after knight e2 check.
That's some dirty counterplay. I'm guessing he was banking on this during the game.
I think this was his idea, because he spent a while before playing knight d4 And based on his like eye movements, I mean, he was calculating these lines.
You just see his eye corresponds to each square.
Yeah, exactly. But it is a strange mistake because obviously bishop takes d4 is kind of like, I think
Right.
maybe he didn't take a step back and look for other options, kind of assumed this is the only dangerous move. But okay, I mean, objectively I can take the knight. I am still completely winning here because queen h5 is coming next. So I'm not exactly sure. Maybe he underestimated this as well.
Right.
But in the game, you know, I felt like, well, bishop takes d4 is just so much simpler. Because if he recaptures, he ends up
Same
not.
thing.
Then this is just a stone cold killer. Either way, queen h5 first, and no defense. Knight is covering f7. That's
Is this
kind
how it
of
finished?
the key. Oh no, he he started shaking his head and then
Okay.
ends up playing f6.
Uh-huh.
So it's like I'm up a piece now. I
Yeah.
still get the attack. Now the only thing I regret about this game is just not finding the smoothest finish. I play queen h5, h6. I mean, every move is good here, but you know, there's any number of ways. Bishop d6. Queen takes h6. This is resignable, of course. If he takes the knight, I give queen h7 check and rook g7. He played g5, and now it's mate in 4. So good time to pause.
Mate in 4.
Mate in 4.
His queen is defending stuff.
Yeah.
I'm looking for quiet moves, but I feel like I should start by looking for checks.
With checks.
Queen h8 is a check, but it loses a queen. Rook take g5 is the obvious candidate move. F take g5. This queen is still defending. I feel embarrassed if I struggle with this for too much longer. It's mate in 4.
Yeah.
Can't be too difficult.
Well, I didn't see it, if that gives you any...
Well, okay. Makes me feel slightly better. Queen g6. His bishop is hanging on b7. So we could play queen g6, queen g7, queen take g7, king take g7, rook take b7, but we're already on, like, that's move 3.
I mean, okay, that won't be
So-
immediate mate, but yeah, that's just completely winning. Just trade queens, take
Right.
everything. So it does start with rook g5, which I played.
Okay.
And
Wait,
here
so now it's mate in 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Making it easier. It's got to be some quiet move. One, two. Oh, I was looking at knight moves, but then there's bishop take h2. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Won't work.
I'm looking at queen h8, like queen sacks, but I don't think that works. Oh, does it work? Oh, queen h8.
Very nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not easy to find.
Double check.
Double check.
I mean, it's a bit of a shame that the game didn't end like this.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, when you have this opportunity.
But so in my defense, you know, after I played bishop takes d4, it's like the game's over, right?
Yeah.
And because I felt like white can win any number of ways, I even told myself, like, don't do anything fancy. I felt like it's kind of showboaty if you're winning and you look for some, like, spectacular queen sack.
Mhm.
Like, just win the game, finish it, you know.
Sure.
What's the point? If the queen sack is the only way to win, then of course, you know. But, so, honestly, like, it wasn't even on my radar. So I just went with, like, the simplest. So I took, okay, queen e6 is, of course, completely winning. I mean, any move is winning. But somehow I was attracted to just queen takes g5, trading queens, and then just like taking.
Just material. Yeah.
Actually, there was another funny mate. I wish I saw this one. Rook b7. queen g5, and then bishop h7.
Double checkmate.
Yeah.
I just uploaded a video on because I had double checkmate last year in round, I think it was round 2 or 3.
Oh, nice.
And then someone commented on the video, "There's no such thing as double checkmate, only double check."
Well, there you go.
So, but you're attacking the king twice. So what do you call it?
It's a double checkmate. Yeah. But I was just so focused on being pragmatic.
Sure.
This is actually also a forced mate, which is funny.
I mean, you have so many pieces attacking him.
Yeah, so like king here, I think the fastest is like bishop e3 and then rook h7. Yeah, I mean, these lines were very fun to calculate. The only way for him to continue the game, I thought, was bishop e7. In the game, he resigned in this because he's just losing everything. After bishop e7, there's a nice finish with rook takes, king f6, and then just any rook move like rook h7. He takes the bishop, quiet move f4, and then black is just getting mated with knight g4.
Nice.
Or rook f7 if he allows. So that was it. I mean, not a clean game in the sense that he could have played better, but okay. I mean, I'm happy with it.
I feel like this is a type of game, like if someone were to randomly look over it with no annotations, no analysis, they would just think you won smoothly. But sometimes when you dig deeper and actually look at the nuances, it's
it was
much more difficult in the
definitely
moments.
A big fight. Yeah, it's not like I was confident the whole time that I was like in control. But okay, good start. Well, let's move on to your game.
My game was pretty painful for most of it until the very end. And it was a long game. I was playing player rated like 1850 from Spain. I already forget his name, and it's not listed here.
Oh, sorry.
But I mean, I had a really good opening. I was probably winning after 10 moves. And then in similar fashion to my games from the last tournament, I got a good position. I let my advantage slip. I was probably worse at some point, and then some kind of miracle happened at the end. So we'll zoom forward here. He played some weird opening. I didn't really prepare much for this game, but I was happy to play a reverse London. Bishop e5.
Nice.
I mean, I was disappointed I wasn't white in the first round because I wanted to play the London, and then I got a reverse London.
Nice.
And it worked out nicely. Like, I just played the normal setup. He played a bit strangely, bishop d3, which I think is playable. I don't think it's a great move. If I wanted to, I could take on d3 and maybe argue his pawn structure is a bit damaged. I just play bishop g6. This is a normal rule in the London. Castle, knight d7. And then I think around here he started just giving me a very comfortable position after knight e5. I just I get some initiative, kick the bishop, he has to move back, and then I play e5.
Oh, nice.
And his bishop is actually just misplaced on d3 because I want to play e4. And if he ever takes on g6, I'm happy to take back and open the h-file and have some pressure against the h-pawn. So I think he's already like a little bit worse here. Just my center is good. So he played f4. Then I just simply take. I think around here I was already calculating potential ways to mate him. I was thinking that if he takes with... I thought he might play this intermediate move, taking on g6. So if he takes with pawn, I can like destroy his pawn structure. Right. And this would be pleasant for black.
Yeah, I think I see the mate.
So I was daydreaming of bishop take.
Right, that's logical.
Yeah. take, bishop c5, king h1. Black to move, mate in 2. And of course, rook take h2, queen h4 mates. And last year I was telling you how, like, in the earlier rounds, I had just so many quick games, just like this, where my opponents would slip up early on. Blunder, like last year, the average length of my first 3 games was like 15 moves. This would be made after 14 moves.
Nice.
But okay, he didn't go into that line. He took with rook, which I think is still pleasant for me. And the position got much better. I played bishop d6.
Yeah.
And then he should probably move the rook, but he took on g7. And now I just win material after rook g8.
Oh, wow.
Because his bishop and rook are hanging. So around here I thought it was just going to be an easy win, which I've come to learn you can never think like that. You can never get too relaxed. So I win the exchange. And just based on the way he played the opening, I thought it shouldn't be difficult to win this.
Right.
I thought I played decent moves, like knight c5.
I mean, so he has one pawn for the exchange.
He has one pawn for the exchange.
But no real compensation, right? No threats. Yeah.
I thought I was the one with activity. I had pawn on d5. I took with rook. I wanted to keep the open g file. In hindsight, maybe I should have taken with h pawn, just fix my pawn structure. Because he got some sort of counterplay, queen h5. I play knight e6. It should still be nothing for white. Queen g5. I was interested or maybe hoping for lines with queen take h7 and then queenside castling, where there's so many ideas. The threat here would be queen f6 and rook h8. This queen gets a bit stuck. Even rook h6 and rook f8 could potentially trap the queen. So he didn't go for that. He traded, which I thought, okay, it's simplifying. Why not? Yeah. I took with knight. And then, okay, there is some cute line here I'll just show real quick. If he takes on c7, I actually took some time. Like after he traded the queen, I thought for maybe 2 minutes here what to take back with. But I took with knight because if he takes c7, I can play rook c8. And I'm going to win the c pawn, except he has this move. He can't play bishop e5 because knight f3 check, but he can play bishop a5. Idea of rook takes c2, bishop c3. And then threat of knight a3 could be annoying. So there is a line here.
But you just give the check on c1, right?
Oh, I have rook c1. Oh, that's simple. I didn't even see that. I was caught up in this line knight f3 check. If he moves the king to f5, I'll take on h2. If he plays king h1, I would play knight e1 and fork these pawns. Okay, so maybe I was getting carried away. And he didn't take on c7. He just plays knight c3. I play c6. Rook f1. And then I don't know what went wrong, but slowly he just kind of solidified. Keep an eye out for like any improvements I could have played. I played rook f4. I brought the knight to e6. I put my pawn in h6. He maneuvers his knight. And then he forces a trade, which I thought, okay, can't hurt me. I take. And then I put my king on d7.
I mean, I saw it around here, to be honest. I also thought it would be an easy win for black.
Yeah, it turned out, maybe I just got careless at some points, too relaxed, but like not only did he just solidify and made it very difficult for me to break through, he actually like put pressure on me and got to a point where I was probably close to losing.
Yeah, I mean, the bishop is a very serious anchor there on f4. So
yeah, it's hard to break through, especially there's no fully open files. And sometimes when you're up the exchange, you need that like one open file to penetrate.
Yeah.
So he plays king f1, and then I play rook e8. I was having ideas of like rook e4, or just improving the rook. He plays g4. And then I played a cute move, pawn d4. He can't take the pawn because rook f6 wins material.
Nice.
I thought d4, okay, I'm opening a file. I should have some breakthrough at some point. He played h3. It's a fine move. Take. And then for some reason I wasn't expecting bishop taking on e3, but I think it's a good move because he basically keeps the files under control. I still have no way of penetrating. And the problem for black is like the structure on the king side is really unpleasant. And his rook on h4 looks out of play, but it's actually a very strong piece, applying constant pressure to h6. And I think already here I probably let my advantage slip. Wow. So I'm not sure what I did wrong earlier. So like rook h5 is coming.
Maybe if you play like b6, c5?
So I played b6.
Okay.
Because I want to defend a7.
Yeah.
The issue became, because usually like when your opponent has like a bishop of a certain color, you want your pawns on that same color to restrict it. Yeah. Exactly. So I thought, okay, I'll play b6, c5, restrict the bishop. But then it turned out my pawns became weak. As we'll see, he plays rook h5. Now I didn't want to play c5 because it allows rook d5. So I play rook d8. And then he played c4, which is I think a very strong move because it just prevents any counter or any rook d5 move. So if I have an extra move to play rook d5, it should be...
Yeah, if you trade rooks,
yeah,
it should be good.
I mean, that's the main goal. but he just avoids the rook trade. And then, like here, I just didn't see a clear plan. I played rook e6. I wanted to improve. King e2. And then I think here I found some plan, like rook h8. My plan was to over-defend this pawn, and then play f6 and rook e5. I still want to trade rooks.
Mm-hmm.
And also potentially maybe king g6, and if he ever moves this rook, I could play h5.
Right. Yeah, you need this break.
Yeah, I wanted to get some break, like someday of h5 or f5.
Uh-huh.
But he just kind of waited, kind of called my bluff. I played king g6. He played a4. I think a4 is a very strong move. Because I think a lot of players, they would just maybe just wait here as whites. But he wasn't waiting. Like he was going for positional play. Like a5 is already a somewhat annoying threat because his rook supports the pawn. So I play rook d8 check.
So why didn't you continue with f6 here? What was the problem?
I was scared of a5.
And let's say you play like c5.
Then he has rook d5.
So you just didn't want to let him get out. Like
Pretty
h5
much, yeah.
here. Do you think?
Yeah, maybe h5 is possible. H5.
Because we'll always have rook h7 against
That's true.
rook d7.
I was looking at lines like this. Maybe this is something I should have gone for. But I don't know. Rook. Like rook d7 here.
Mm-hmm. Rook h7.
And then he can take.
Oh, he takes.
Well, I don't know. It might get messy. Maybe this is what I should go for.
Oh yeah,
but,
I feel like maybe you have. His a-pawn's very annoying.
Yeah, like the fact that he's leaving the tension here. If I take with rook, his queenside pawns are going to be very strong.
Yeah.
Even if I get a passed f pawn.
Yeah, he's ready to play a6. Yeah, it's very double-edged already.
So like in this position, I didn't want to commit to like giving him counterplay, like committing to c5 allowing rook d5.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to
delay it.
So before f6, yeah, I played rook d8. But the problem with this, it leaves h pawn undefended, and after I play king g7, he just plays bishop d4. And I realize he just wants to repeat.
Mm-hmm.
King h7, bishop e3. And now I'm in a situation I don't want to repeat against a lower rated player, and I need to defend my h pawn. So I think he's threatening. Yeah, and he's threatening g5. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to defend against this. I play king g7 back, and then I ultimately decide to play f6, bishop e3, and then rook h8. So I really made no progress apart from putting the pawn on f6. But this was, I guess, one of my goals.
Now, right?
Yeah. So rook e5. So I guess it's some progress. But then he plays a5, and his plan is much quicker than my plan. And then around here, I don't know if I mishandled it or maybe it's already worse. But after c5, he takes and plays b4. And now black is under so much pressure.
Yeah, his bishop is just so strong. Such a rock.
Yeah, just defended by e3. It's it's just such a perfectly placed piece. It's better than like both of my rooks. So yeah, I was considering just offering a draw because I felt like I was worse. It was incredible, like given the position I had earlier, like how my advantage just kind of disappeared. So I either misjudged it or didn't identify some critical moment. This is a game I have to look back on and see it. And again, I haven't used the engine yet to identify the mistakes. But okay, I play rook e5. And then I was sad.
He gets the second pawn.
Like emotionally, I was sad here because it's first round. I'm worse against 1850,
right? And
this is a 10-round tournament. If I draw the first round, I will likely play down and have like much less chance of getting any norm or getting to play stronger players.
Yeah. That's the problem with the 1 round a day schedule, is that if you're doing badly, you're doing badly for much longer. It's not over quickly.
Exactly. Yeah. But okay, h5. I wanted to try and win a pawn on the king side. plays king d3, king f6, bishop e3, king e6. And then he played king e4 and offered me a draw.
Mm-hmm.
And I was this close to taking it. But then I had memories of my game from Romania, the round 2 game, where it was some situation like rook versus bishop, where some players just say they underestimate the power of rook, of the rook in the endgame. I was also low on time here.
Yeah, I mean, in that game, it looked very, very drawish, but somehow you managed to create chances.
Yeah. I mean, this is even more drawish, if not like just better for white.
Right.
But I kind of use this principle of trying to force him to make some decision.
Mm-hmm.
So far, okay, his moves have been pretty direct. Let's get to the point where he had to make a decision. Take, rook h4, still simple moves. I move back, he moves back. Then I play rook c8. So this is actually the moment I calculated when he played king e4. And this is a reason why I didn't take the draw, is because he has to make a decision here how to defend his c-pawn. Mm-hmm. He can play c5, or he can play d3. Mm-hmm. But both moves have some concession. If he plays c5, it gives me the d5 square.
Right.
If he plays d3, it leaves some target on d3. Maybe it's slightly weaker. Yeah. His bishop is slightly less of a rock. Right. So he thought for a while, and he played d3. Okay, it's still...
Seems like the right choice.
Yeah. Yeah, because this king is coming to e4.
Mm-hmm.
And then I play rook g8, another like subtle move. It's sort of just a waiting move, but again, forcing him to make a decision. Because there's a few different moves he can consider here, like g5 or c5, but both of these moves give me either the f5 or d5 square. Mm-hmm. A waiting move like king g3 is just a blunder, because then rook d8 he can't defend the d-pawn, right. Which is one of the reasons why I wanted this pawn on d3.
Yeah.
And his king is tied down, so he can't play like king e4, because rook take g4. Mm-hmm. So yeah, any move he makes here is probably some concession. Probably he should just move the bishop as a waiting move.
Too.
Yeah. But he played a move which I was kind of hoping he would play. It's still dead drawn, but then it gave me some initiative and some momentum. Sometimes that's what these positions are about.
Did he play d4?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So this, it's logical from his point of view. Trade off the pawns.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's okay. King rook versus king bishop and 2 pawns. It should be an easy draw for white. I was hoping that he didn't know this king bishop fortress. There's a famous kind of idea how to draw king bishop versus king rook. Mm-hmm. If we imagine the pawns are off the board, and white just puts the king on h1 and bishop on g1. Right. There's no way for black to win. So I was hoping he wouldn't know that, or I was hoping he would get too greedy, hold on to the pawns, and allow some trick. Mm-hmm. But okay, position is still equal. I have rook c8, c5, and then king d5. So some initiative. I attack his bishop. He played bishop g1, which made me happy. His bishop is a bit awkward. Play rook f8. I bring my king in. So I was feeling momentum. Mm-hmm. Compared to the position a few moves ago, okay, I have some activity. His bishop's a bit misplaced.
Yeah, I mean, you're very far from being able to lose the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I realized
compared
I can...
to before, right?
Yeah, I can bail out with a draw any moment if I just... I can, probably sack the rook for 2 pawns or something. He plays bishop h2. Which, right after he played that, I thought it was a weird move. Yeah. But he now has an idea of king g2 and bishop d6. So I wanted to prevent his bishop from coming to d6. I play rook c8, forcing him back, and then I play rook g8. So a bit of this was just dancing around, trying to provoke some mistake. He played bishop f2, rook f8, have ideas of rook f3 check, plays king g2, which was probably a decent move. He allows me king f4, but he's planning this type of thing. Mm-hmm. I had nothing better than king f4 here. Check. And then, okay, he could play bishop d6. But actually, if he plays bishop d6, I was going to play rook f6. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe he's in some sort of Zugzwang in this position. I was like, what would white play?
Well, I mean, if I'm playing white, I just play king h1.
Well, yeah, you know what to do.
Right.
Though, wait.
He didn't know
King
the-
H1, King H3.
No, Bishop H2.
Okay, so you're just.
And then
you
I'll just
know
give the pawn.
fortress.
C6,
Okay, fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah. Do you think he didn't know it? Because that
Yeah,
would
I don't
explain
think
how
so.
he played.
Yeah.
Then.
I mean, the way he played was perfectly fine. I mean, holding on to the pawn. He went for C6, which is maybe even simpler.
Yeah.
Different idea of getting the pawn to C7.
Right.
Play Rook 8. He just plays C7. Check. And then King F1.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no time to take the bishop. I have to put the rook on C2.
Mm-hmm.
Moves the bishop. Okay, now it's just a dead draw, because the C pawn is always threatening to queen.
Mm-hmm.
But I played on because I was hoping for tricks. King F3, King E1, King E3, threatening mate, King D1, King D3. And then he played Bishop F4. And then relatively soon, like within 10-15 seconds after he played Bishop F4, I realized there was a trick in the position.
Mm-hmm.
And like earlier, I was searching for potential tricks because that's how Black is ultimately going to win this.
Yeah.
And once I found the trick, or once I saw the trick, I realized I should play my next move pretty quickly and hope he just gets relaxed. He'll maybe play quickly in response.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of what happened. He played Rook C4, or I played Rook C4.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so can we back
Yeah.
up? So people are wondering why not Rook F2, right?
Rook F2, yeah. Yeah, the problem is his C pawn is so dangerous. Like, he could just play King E1.
And you have to go back.
Yes. Maybe I could have repeated. Rook F2. Maybe I could have repeated.
Mm-hmm.
He could even play King C1 here. Which is maybe why I rejected this, because I didn't want his king to run so far away.
Okay.
So I wanted to keep my rook on the C file.
Mm-hmm.
So I play Rook C4.
Right.
And then...
Yeah, it still feels like...
Yeah, now he just moves his bishop along this diagonal to keep the pawn defended. It's just going to be a draw. I probably was going to take a draw within maybe 5 to 10 moves.
Right.
But then he was hovering his hand like around his king, getting ready to play King E1, which looks like it looks like a drawing move. But when he was hovering his hand about to touch the king, I went for my pen about to write down his move.
Genius.
Which kind of prompted him just to move to play King E1.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've actually done this. When
it's a psychological trick.
Yeah, you want your opponent to make the natural blunder, so you're just casually, I'm just getting ready to write down your move. I also think it's forced.
Right. I honestly felt bad for him though, given he played the ending well and then just one mistake. So Black to move and win, and this was a trick I was banking on.
Mm-hmm.
Move is Rook E4 check.
Yeah. So what was his face at this point?
I think he took it pretty well. It was clear it was some head shake and some surprise, but he wasn't screaming or anything. And then he thought for a minute and then resigned. Yeah, because he's expecting when he plays King E1, he sees that I can't take the bishop, the C pawn's ready to queen, and he just forgets this intermediate move. And the situation works out beautifully. If he moves his king to the F file, I take with check and then play Rook F8.
Mm-hmm.
If he moves his king to D1, I just take the bishop threatening mate.
Yeah, I think the Benasque calls this a clarifying check.
Uh-huh.
Clarify where the king goes, and then it's bad.
Right, right.
That's brutal.
So, I mean, it was not the smoothest start. I was I was accepting that it was going to be a draw until the very end. Around here, I just assumed it was going to be a draw, but then when he played Bishop F4, I had the ounce of hope. And that's why I guess this game is a demonstration why you should not take draws, even when the position seems equal. I tell this to all my students, but especially if your opponent is the one offering you a draw, it means they might have some fear, they might be scared to lose.
Right.
And sometimes it just makes sense to play on. To put pressure and try and provoke mistakes. Yeah,
it's an instructive moment for lower rated players when you're holding the defense, because I mean, maybe he just didn't know this stalemate ideas with
Mm-hmm.
king h1, bishop g1, and that's.
Right.
But I was always taught that like, if you do know something is a draw, you should just go for the fortress that you know. Because
Right.
it seemed like he was just trying to draw comfortably by
Yeah.
keeping the pawn, and sometimes this is good, but with like you guys are low on time, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no added time, just 30-second increment, and that means that later on he's gonna have to calculate lines and figure out in what position can he hang his bishop and what position doesn't work.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's more practical just to give up the pawns, put the king on h1 and draw. But yeah, maybe he didn't know it, and so he.
It's
didn't-
possible, yeah. I mean, a large number of my students are like around his rating range,
Mhm.
and I've had to show them this fortress and then play it out to make sure they can draw it.
Well, okay, maybe we can poll the YouTube audience.
Yeah.
So let's say we just give. Let's say we. Which position should we do?
We can
yeah.
go to the bishop d6 line and just say,
Let's say we put this position on the board. Let's say he plays like king g1, just gonna waste some time. And then let's say he just gave the pawn.
yeah.
Okay, so for those of you guys that are watching, how many of you were familiar that this position is not only a theoretical draw, because everyone knows rook versus bishop is a draw,
Mhm.
but just an easy draw, because whenever black like tries to get the maximum, it's always going to be a stalemate.
Right.
And so it's not even hard for white. The only, let's say, bit of technique you should know is that, let's say when black does play here, in general, I think it's better to just move the bishop as far as possible. And the reason I know this is because...
Wait. Oh yeah, that still works. I was thinking rook c1 check, then rook c6, but then there's bishop g3.
Yeah, so white will always have some kind of like check
Yeah.
to... or if the bishop is on like b8, then you would have this check
Yeah.
or something. The only danger is when the bishop is too close and then you don't have some of these checks available. But I remember seeing a blitz game where Karyakin was defending with the bishop,
Mm-hmm.
and Karyakin is like the best defender in chess, right?
Right.
And he, without thinking, was just like pre-moving, like bishop h2, bishop b8, and back. You know,
Mhm.
every time it doesn't hang the bishop.
Right.
And he would always just move the bishop as far as possible.
Nice.
And so I understood that to mean that's probably the best method. I think if you move the bishop closer, I don't know, sometimes there's some tricks.
Yeah. Another way to think about this, just from a logical standpoint, in order for white to mate, the king has to be here or here. But
Right.
both of these are dark squares. So if your bishop is checking from some distance, you're always going to take away
One of these
squares.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, so yeah, important to point out, it's the opposite corner
Right.
that you need to put the king. If you put the king on a1, it's not as easy. So
I
yeah,
mean, if king on a1 might be lost even.
right.
Or even in the center, it could be lost.
Sometimes, yeah, there's tricks. So yeah, if you guys know this, let us know in the comments. I'm curious how many players knew this, and you can give like your rating range. You know, I'm 1200 and I knew this easily, or you know, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But all right, I mean, very resilient. I would have given him the draw, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was just
That was some magic
I
that
was
you
so
pulled off.
upset after the opening. I was it's what we call on tilt, where
Right.
I was letting my emotions, like I could have easily over pushed probably.
Yeah.
And there was maybe some point maybe he didn't have to simplify and could have pushed for a win by playing a move like g5 or c5 and trying to walk the king up.
Right.
But okay, well, we're gonna try and move on, focus on the future rounds.
Round 2 coming up.
Just over 4 hours.
Yeah.
So probably just gonna take a walk through the mountains.
Nice.
It's not a bad way to prepare.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'll see you guys in future videos. Thanks for watching, and take care.
yeah, see ya.